Hello, my name is Mike Reynolds, and this is another edition of Men's Health Bitesize. I'm really pleased to say that having seen Paul's post, that Paul's agreed to do a recorded chat so we can get a much richer insight to the background to Paul. So Paul Kilcheski, we got that right?
Yep, hang on.
Good. So Men's Health Bitesize, it's, we care about everyone's well-being, but an area that we're going at, I guess, is men being less good at seeking support when they need it. They'll sit on health issues, and when it comes to mental health, that man's pride kind of stuff, and sitting on issues and not reaching out. And sadly, the biggest killer of men under 45 is suicide. Now, 1 in 5 men, they don't reach retirement. They fared worse under COVID, and let's say 3 out of 4 suicides are men. So we're trying to do our bit to kind of get inspiring people like you who've been through the ringer and come through the other side and are wanting to share their story for the benefit of others. And if one person watches this back and is inspired, then our time on this would have been worth it. So Paul, shall we just wind the clock back then? You had a challenging 20-year period in your life, from your late teens up to the age of 37. And there's quite a few bumps in the road that you've gone through. Do you just want to set the scene of how it is that you kind of had this long and prolonged difficult stage through your life?
Yeah, sure. I mean, from a sort of age of 5, my earliest memory is my parents sort of shouting and arguing, like, I'm sure a lot of parents do. There was no physical violence, but things thrown, which caused a lot of anxiety and fear of confrontation from a young age. My sort of early childhood in primary school was quite happy. I sort of fitted in. I was quite confident. It all sort of started really around the time that I moved catchment areas to a different secondary school. Ironically, the school I was supposed to go to was had a bad reputation for drinking drugs, and the school we moved to was better academically to give me a better education. Obviously, I've got a very unusual Polish surname, so all my friends went to a different secondary school. I didn't know anyone. People couldn't say my name. I stuck out like a sore thumb because of that. Everyone found it hilarious, and they all had their little cliques of friends. So immediately I felt very alienated, tried to dress and fit in and be like everyone else and just sort of fly under the radar to try and fit in and be accepted. Didn't really go to plan. I was picked on, beaten up, and the problem was I didn't stick up for myself. So, I hated confrontation. I didn't like violence. So, I was taught just to walk away, be the bigger man. Which I think, looking back on, I still think it's the right thing because violence doesn't solve anything. It just causes me lots of fear, and also the worry that if I was to retaliate and then punch someone and they fall over and hit their head, and I know my luck that they wouldn't be here anymore. So I sort of shouldered that uncomfortability of never really feeling comfortable in my own skin, thinking, well, what's wrong with me? Why am I different? When in reality, that's kids. And they probably didn't give it a second thought. They went home, carried on about their day, and I'm there sitting thinking, well, maybe if I'd done this differently, if I'd done that differently, would that have happened? All this stuff going around in my head. First time I got drunk was probably at the age of 13 at a party I got invited to with most of the school. There was no parents there. And typical of me to try and fit in, I necked 4 what they call death pints, which is all different spirits mixed together, one after the other, to almost a bit of male ego and showing off, thinking, oh, well, I can do that. Within about half an hour, it didn't go very well. I was slumped on the toilet, coming out both ends. Luckily, I didn't have camera phones back then. And I just remember for that brief half an hour, it filled me with confidence. It took everything away. Nothing else really mattered. And I felt like everyone was on my side. So that was my first sort of soiree into it, thinking, oh, well, great, this gives me confidence. It helps me not be me. Made me feel like with a drink what normal people felt like without it. So yeah, that was the sort of start of it, really.
Yeah, and I know, that when we spoke a little before, that kind of fitting in and, trying to please a group, and then, I know you got into a relationship, but, that relationship had complications, which then, opened you up to, substance abuse as well as the alcohol element, which, that route for you then, that was obviously a big downturn in terms of life events then, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously going out with the lads and going clubbing, probably started at around the age of 15. So we were drinking, probably started off doing like speed and stuff like that, smoking, all the usual stuff, but none of it really ticked boxes. And then, like you mentioned, I got into my first proper serious relationship, which I thought was the one when I was 17. Unbeknownst at the time, she had a cocaine addiction problem. And I sort of fell into it. It was, my twisted thinking was, well, to save the relationship, if I start doing it with her, then maybe we will have something in common. And I quite quickly became hooked on it. It was only ever weekends, when I was out drinking to start with, and then soon it became a couple of times a week. And then before I know it, it was as soon as I got home from work, I was shutting myself in my bedroom doing it up until I went to work the next day. I sort of hid it from my parents for quite a few years until they knew something wasn't right. That I literally was coming home from work, not coming out of my bedroom, and my mum opened one of my bank statements and saw that I was £83,000 in debt. Every day I wanted to go to her and tell her I had a problem, but it was, how do you sit your parents down and say, oh, I'm addicted to Class A drugs? It's not the sort of conversation that you wonder how they're going to take it. And I'm glad she did open the mail, because she said, if you don't tell me what's wrong, I can't help you. So a lot of my story was getting caught out rather than being honest. Because that's what addiction does, is it tries to keep you in its prison and try and prolong it for as long as it can. So I did rehab at the age of 20. Was it back in within a year, because I think I was too young. I didn't understand it enough. I didn't take it seriously. Well, I didn't not take it seriously. I thought I did, but there was lots of other external factors. My parents were arguing about the money that they sent me to rehab. Wasn't cheap. Work at the time were good and gave me 4 weeks off to go there, but then made me redundant shortly after with no real reason. There wasn't as much awareness about addiction and men's mental health back then, so it was, I think, didn't want the problem sort of swept me under the carpet. So I wasn't really strong enough. I wasn't keeping up meetings, and didn't really know enough about. I just wanted to drink and be a 20-year-old lad, and then the alcohol really kicked in. I sort of stopped the cocaine for a while, and then drinking a bottle of whiskey a night, either over-exercising, overeating, womanising, retail therapy, anything I could to just, get that next fix, really. And then that sort of escalated and escalated. I say in total, I've been in rehab. Well, the last time, hopefully, ever was the 7th time, but the 6 times before was to get people off my back, not because I wanted to go. It was more, I either owed dealers money or had police turning up at the door, or I had, my family or girlfriends at the time getting on at me. It was like, oh, well, this is a great escape. I can just go off and go to rehab and get away from it all. And it wasn't, again, didn't ever not take it serious when I was there. I knew I had a problem. But the problem was I always had access to money. I always landed on my feet. And as an addict and alcoholic, you'll manipulate and scheme every possibility until there is literally no resource left,
Mm.
until you turn to crime and stealing, which I did eventually.
Because I know you said at one point, to fuel, cocaine as a substance, you're spending £250 a day just to keep on going.
Yeah, like I say, I was working in project management, so I was earning quite a good wage. So with that, credit cards, loans, I was forging pay slips when I was out of work to get payday loans at astronomical APRs.
Yeah.
I didn't care because I never had any intention at the time of paying it back. It was just any way of getting money. I'd sit there with Microsoft Paint open, literally pixel by pixel, zoomed in, editing pay slips and dates on it to make it look like I was currently employed when I wasn't. I was ringing up nationwide and pretending to be like one of the account managers and saying, "Oh, what's the code for if you haven't got your credit card to draw money out over the counter?" And I didn't know that you could do that, but I was using almost false confidence, thinking, well, if I sound convincing enough, I might get the information I want. And they were giving me this information, and I was going in because my parents had taken my credit card off me to try and stop me causing chaos. So every avenue I could to manipulate money, I was doing. I'm not proud of it. I wasn't well, and it took me a long time to understand that it's an illness rather than a choice.
Yeah, definitely. So I know that that then there was obviously periods of going in rehab, coming out, going in, coming out, and I know that you got to a very kind of low ebb. I think you were living kind of on the streets or sofa surfing, whatever you could kind of find. So you were kind of at the lowest depths at the end of a very vicious circle that just continues to kind of go lower and lower. And we know that for many men, that leads to kind of a fatal end. We chatted before that you had a very kind of close call with that. I think it's probably worth us just teasing that out again, because you were on that bridge moment. You were moments from no return. You just want to take us through how you got to that point, and then what brought you back, and then how, if everyone in that kind of situation just takes those few more seconds, there might just be something that says there's something to keep going for.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in fate. I do believe everything happens for a reason. I literally, at my lowest, I'd been homeless 2 years. The drink, drugs weren't even touching the sides in the end. They weren't getting me drunk or high. I was constant state of paranoia and fear, anxiety, psychotic breaks. I didn't know what was real and what wasn't in the end. I think I had a caravan of clothes, and I still had my watch, which I tried to sell but wasn't worth much. And I kept it more because it was sentimental, because my mum had given it to me. And I hadn't changed my clothes for weeks on end. I was stinking. I was, sobbing my heart out. I was just done. I was existing. I wasn't living anymore. And each day that, unfortunately, my eyes opened, I knew that I'd be going through that nightmare again. And I was walking along. It was tipping down with rain. I was on a flyover bridge for the motorway, and I just thought, what's the point in carrying on? And I stood up on the bridge. Someone happened to be walking by at the time. Didn't even bat an eyelid that I'm still on the bridge looking like I'm going to jump off, and just said, "Oh, I've got the time, mate." Absolutely just distracted me. I sort of whizzed round and sort of told them the time, and then I heard a police sirens coming up in the distance. Not for me, but that's what my head will tell me. Oh, they're coming for me. I'm off my face and in a bad way, and I don't want to get caught. I stepped down off the bridge, and just before I'd done that, I'd actually said, and I'm not religious, but I think at a time of desperation, most people turn to God. I just remember saying, please God, help me. I've had enough. Just tell me what I need to do. And after that had happened, I made a phone call to my dad, who didn't really understand addiction, didn't really know the full story from my mum of years of what I'd been through. But I called him and just said, I need help. I can't do this anymore. And my mum was in the car at the time on loudspeaker. I didn't know she was there, and she burst into tears, just saying, "Finally, we've been waiting for you to finally be ready and ask for help. We'll support you this one last time, but you need to research what rehab you want to go to. It's got to have a move-on facility for you to be able to come out and start a new life outside of my hometown of Reading, which is where I grew up and spent all my life, because it was just, I was done there. There was too many bad memories. It was too dangerous. I had too many dealers that would let me run up ridiculous amounts in debt. I needed a new start. So I found a place in Chelmsford. I had an ex-girlfriend who lived in Southend, and we used to commute, and I liked up that way because it was near the coast. That's my peaceful place. So I found a place in Chelmsford that did the 12 steps. Something I'd never really done in recovery. I'd always got so far and then walked out on my own ego or pride, or someone had seen something inside me that I knew was there and I didn't like and didn't want to deal with. And that place changed my life. It wasn't easy. There was people relapsing in and out of, while I was going through treatment. We were in like a shared house and we had to walk in. We had access to our own money, only about £80 every once in a while to get shopping in and toiletries. And there was that trust element. You had your mobile phone. If I wanted to mess things up, I could have messed it up, but I had nowhere to go. There were people drinking and using at certain points, or I had suspicions. Never been a grass in my life, but I had to say something to staff, whether I was right or wrong, because I know that if they were doing it in the house and I found out that I'd have been doing it with them, and that's my chance gone.
Yeah.
They came round and tested them, and unfortunately they were using. And I really, hate myself for having to do that, because I've been in that position, but I needed to keep myself safe.
I know we talked before about getting some tough love, and obviously very difficult for parents to sort of see, their child. You'll always be their child, won't you? And they will always sort of want the best for you. But I know they had to get to a point where they had to leave you to it for you to get to the point where your realization to, I have to do this for me first and foremost, and then layer in. One of the things that we did talk about before that I think last thing we'll touch on is just you discovered a rehab buddy, albeit didn't get off on the best foot. But just want to say a little bit about what it means to have a buddy to kind of help you through to get to 5 years sober, as I know you put in your post.
Yeah, I speak to him daily. I'm sure I do his head in plenty, but then he rings me with similar problems and says the same. So we probably both deserve a medal. But I cannot stress enough to have someone that you trust and you can be open and honest with, who can call you on your bullcrap, is priceless. This guy knows the real me, without the armour on, without the bravado. He tells me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And to me, that's a true friend. And I do the same for him. And it's not always an easy conversation, but there's growth in that. To me, if I've got a situation going on and I'm being out of order, I need to know I'm being out of order. I do working amends, so I deal with it on the day. I don't leave anything unturned, because tomorrow's not promised. I was always taught you don't go to bed on a bad note. And they might not accept it, but you've done your part. As long as you keep your side of the street clean, that's all you can do. And I learned that a lot.
And I know I was fascinated about the fate aspect that you were saying, that you can't help believing because of circumstances. But he was someone that you came to know through one of your rehab sessions. Obviously, it wasn't a successful rehab, but there's this person. You're in a Christian support group for rehab at that point, and there's a session praying for someone recovering from a pretty sorry state because of their circumstances. So you've got a group of people praying for someone coming back from near death in a hospital, and whilst you didn't know the outcome of that, do you just want to say about how it is that you kind of came back into your life then, that this happened to be the person?
Yeah, because it was the first time I properly prayed or thought I was praying. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I really wanted this guy to pull through. And then after getting kicked out of that rehab, I reapplied, went back 6 months later. I'm telling this guy that story because it sort of came back to me being in that room. And he's looking at me like white as a sheet and, shocked. And he's like, you're talking about me. And I think we were meant to meet. We were meant to be part of each other's life. We had an altercation where I sliced my arm open in rehab and then found out I had anger issues, which I then had to deal with. So I had a near-death experience on the kitchen floor of rehab. Luckily, the paramedics turned up when they did, otherwise I wouldn't be here. And we both had ins and outs of recovery and relapses at different times. He was there when I needed him and vice versa. And then when I finally got into recovery back in May 2018, he was in a very bad way. I was there from on the phone. I spoke to an old counsellor who got him an interview at one of the rehabs in Birmingham. I actually phoned up and did the interview on his behalf because he was in such a state. Not pretending to be him, but just sort of said his situation and got him in. Someone was there to show me the way of what they'd been through to help me. That's the whole basis of addiction and alcohol and the 12 steps in the meetings is, I don't know if anyone's seen the film Pay It Forward, but it's almost doing like a good deed for someone else. You don't want anything in return. You just want to carry it on and have a chain reaction. Like I say, that I really want to state that I'm not doing this interview for ego, pride, pat on the back, sympathy, or any of that. My pure goal is I've lost too many friends to depression, suicide, alcohol addiction, whatever the case may be. Staying silent for nearly 20 years nearly killed me. So I choose to disregard my anonymity and recover out loud so people don't have to die and suffer in silence.
And, and that's what this is all about, and if one person is helped from this, then our time was worth it. Hopefully, a lot more will hear, and understand that actually, if they just take that step, earlier, not wait 20 years. And, I appreciate yours was a complex journey, but, coming through the other side of that, then, you're 2 years into your role in Openreach, copper fiber engineer, and, a much better situation now. You've a partner, a stepdaughter, and a younger daughter. Lots of reasons for that. Life was meant to go on then.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how stressful or anxiety filled my day can be, because I do still get that. I have my coping mechanisms, and I've had to do work on leaving the job at the door when I get home. I normally have my terrible toddler come running to the door screaming, "Daddy, Daddy," and I got home from work today. She's come running out in the back car park naked and jumping in my van because I got a picture of her and my stepdaughter in my van visor. How was your day today? What did you get? And nothing else matters. To me, family is everything. I'm very lucky to have what I've got because there's a lot of people that unfortunately haven't got recovery. I've had a lot of support. I've had a lot of help. Just want to be a good person, a good son, brother, stepdad, dad, partner, work colleague. Just do the best I can.
Yeah. Right. Well, we could do a full feature-length movie on your full experience, but it is meant to be bite-sized. Hopefully, people who've lasted this long, will have felt it's worth it. I think you are a key inspiration. We need lots more people prepared to just put themselves out there, show that actually there's no stigma or harm in laying yourself bare, because actually we've all got issues and we've all got needs, and life's got these kind of wavy lines of lows and mental health dips, and we need to know what to do with them. I've got 7 questions I'll wrap up all the interviews with, just to ease us out of the heavy stuff. Right, exercise then. Do you have a preferred time to exercise?
Normally straight after work. I get in, once I sign off, get changed, get my 2 mini sausage dogs, put my headphones in, down the seafront, which is about 5 minutes away, do 4.5 mile walk, which is my unwind, meditation, get ready for going home to the couch to the kids' time.
I'll come back onto your unwinding bits, but what about breakfast then? Have you got a typical breakfast?
Quite boring. Porridge most mornings with a banana.
Set you up for the day then, yeah. How about a go-to leisure pursuit then?
Probably snooker. I used to play six-side football. I need to get back into it, starting to put a bit of weight back on. But yeah, snooker and football.
I did an interview a little while ago. Actually, I did tag you in with Lou Malone. They're Men United Against the Suicide. I think there's a few groups emerging, I guess, of trying to connect, men in difficult circumstances to, build a community around them. So watch out for that then. What about places to unwind? And I think you said about the coast, but have you got a favorite place where you unwind the best?
Yeah, pretty much the beach. It's my peaceful place. Hearing the sound of the water coming in, especially sort of in the winter nights. I know the weather's not as good, but if it's a calm night, just the sound of the water, and the sunlight off, the moonlight coming off of it. It's my peaceful place.
What about cooking then? Can you cook? And if so, what's your signature dish?
I'm probably better at it than I think I am, as my missus tells me. I'd probably say toad in the hole.
Okay. Yeah. Yorkshire pudding always goes down well in this house. What about gadgets then? Are you a gadget person? Obviously, I know you mentioned your watch. You still got that watch? When your mother gave you?
Yeah, that's up in my drawer, kept safe. I've got an Apple Watch now, which is my new addiction. I have to close my 3 rings every day. I'm probably on about a 1,200 day consecutive streak, but it's a good addiction to have. That and the AirPods.
I'm going to loop you into a health bite-sized bootcamp group that is there. So watch out for that one coming to your way. Our last one then. What about a sporting hero moment? Is there one moment or circumstance you'd love to have been, living?
I think the one that stands out for me, I think I was a plastic mank back in the day. So the treble year when Man United played Bayern Munich, I remember being in a pub, the irony, watching it, thinking, oh yeah, it's time's ticking away, it's all done. And then to be there, I wish I was there in person, but to see the 2 goals go in extra time, injury time, I wish I was Solskjaer that scored the winner, because to secure the treble when it hadn't been done would be an amazing feeling. So
yeah, brilliant. Right, well, Paul Kilcheski, thank you for doing Men's Health Bite Size. Any last words of wisdom, lived experience? What would you offer anyone who's made it this far?
Don't ever let pride hold you back from speaking out. To me, pride almost killed me from thinking my problems weren't important. It caused me a lot of pain, suffering, anxiety, and to those around me. Lots more people want to see you well and doing all right than you think. So just speak out, find someone you can trust, and live for the day.
Right. Well, you are a true inspiration. I know you're doing it at any plaudits or anything, but I really applaud the fact that you have emerged and put yourself out there, and hopefully, we get lots of people who benefit from, just hearing your story and take inspiration. I know I have. So, thank you again for giving some time for this.
My pleasure. Thanks very much for asking me.
No worries.